Right now, the priority is not being the healthiest and most productive version of yourself. Right now, the priority is overcoming whatever struggle you might be facing at this current moment. Despite what toxic motivation might say to you, just doing enough can be good enough. Apparently her name's Vanessa Tiiu, but I probably butchered that. Pretty sure that's what Abbey says, so we're going to go with that. A bit of an old video from Abbey, but it's one that I actually kind of deemed to be somewhat relevant, as I've seen a lot of that whole that girl trend recirculating on TikTok recently, which actually makes sense considering Vanessa actually did an updated version of this video like a couple of months ago. So I figured, you know what, it's been popping up on the TikTok, which means it's probably been popping up on someone else's TikTok. Let's talk about becoming that girl is more dangerous than you think. Vanessa Tiiu guide review by Abbey Sharp. I think, again, based on what I've seen, I'm not that girl. Clearly, could be. Actually, who says I'm not? Ignore what I just said, say I'm not. Who says I'm not? Based on what I'm seeing, this whole that girl trend is essentially that kind of like idea of like becoming like the best version of yourself from like health and like wellness perspective, doing the most productive things you can, becoming like the best version of the most motivational creature on the line. And that inherently has some problems in itself, which we're going to address very shortly.
And while I fully support self-development, healthy habits, and doing the things that make you feel great, I do have a bit of a bone to pick with the toxic messaging that this trend can sometimes perpetuate, and obviously, I want to talk about it.
I kind of back it, like I'm all for motivation, I'm all for doing things and consuming things that make you feel driven to do better, be better, whatever it may be. But there are a couple of things you really need to identify. Motivation and like discipline are very different things. Motivation is something you might feel like within you, that kind of excitement to do something, to be productive after watching like a motivational video or after speaking to a friend, something like that. That feeling is fleeting. That does not last for a very long time. You get that quick bump of, I can't wait to do this, before then being hit with the reality of, oh, I actually have to do this now. And that's when discipline and kind of like determination comes into it, which is essentially doing something even if you don't want to do it because you know it's for the best. If you want to perform really well at your job, but you really can't be bothered to go in, you know that to get the promotion, you probably have to go into work. Even if you aren't motivated to do so, the goal is worth the journey. When you're being fed this kind of content that implies you have to be the best version of yourself 24/7, does that actually make you feel motivated, or does that potentially actually make you feel a bit like a failure sometimes? Because I know it has for me personally. Sometimes you actually don't need to be your healthiest and most productive self at all times. Sometimes you actually might be going through something in your life that means maybe you don't need to be the healthiest right now. Maybe you could be a bit lazy, actually. God forbid you could be a bit lazy for a while, because right now the priority is not being the healthiest and most productive version of yourself. Right now the priority is overcoming whatever struggle you might be facing at this current moment. Doesn't mean that can't change in the future, but right now is that the most important thing for you? Sometimes you don't have to do the most. Sometimes you can actually just do enough. Despite what toxic motivation might say to you, just doing enough can be good enough.
My concern is that this trend paints a perfect ideal that just might not be attainable for 99.99% of people who have, I don't know, obligations, responsibilities, or even just aspirations beyond the life they portray online.
Yeah, I think the reality is these trends are really cool, and a lot of times people maybe fall into the trap of, oh, if they do it, why can't I do it too? They seem to be having a great time kind of with this gratitude journaling, with this 3-hour morning routine. Why? I just don't know if I can do it. But why do you think that is? A lot of times, a lot of these content creators who are making these videos, this is their full-time job. So doing these kind of like morning routines can inherently be part of their job, because again, that's how they create content. Sometimes you actually have bigger fish to fry. You may have a family that actually rely on you. You may have kids, you may have a partner, you may have family members beyond that actually kind of need you to be a bit more present for them in the moment, which means you can't spend 3 hours going through a morning routine. You actually might have a really busy job that causes you a lot of stress. And sometimes doing a 3-hour morning routine means you might actually sacrifice 3 hours of the sleep you already struggle to get as it is. Is it really worth bringing your sleep down from 7 hours to 4 hours just to have a 3-hour morning routine? Or is it actually probably better for you to get 7 hours of sleep if you can? Never feel guilty if you don't feel like you are doing enough. You have to remember that the lives we see online of the people we're consuming, that's probably a highlight reel and probably not reality, but also this might actually be their full-time job, which means they do have a lot more freedom to do things. Their lives may not be as stressful as yours. They may not have other family members or other people in their life to consider. That means they can't embark on these big 3-hour journeys in the morning. There's a lot going into this, a lot of factors to play. And if your morning routine looks like a 5-minute self-care routine, maybe that's good enough for you. Maybe that is enough of a morning routine to keep you going down the direction you need to go down.
Find what feels good to you, add something in or take something out, switch it up day to day, or stick to the same routine. Whatever works, You don't need to add a bunch of tasks to your morning if the end results just leave you feeling more overwhelmed and stressed out.
Yeah, sometimes more actually isn't better. Genuinely, if you really want to start considering maybe implementing a morning routine, identify how much time you realistically have in the morning, and then take some time away from it to give you a bit of a buffer. Then identify one thing you could potentially add into that routine that might make your day a bit better. Could you go for a 5-minute walk? Could you maybe just sit and do a bit of reading for 5 minutes, maybe journaling for 5 minutes? Could you maybe listen to an audiobook? Is there something you could do for 5 minutes that just might make your day a little bit better by starting it off on the right foot? Could you play with a pet for 5 minutes? Could you just do something that allows you to just be a bit more present and makes you feel like you're doing something to start the day right? Once you've done that, maybe you could add another thing in the future. Maybe you could add another thing after that. Like with training, you don't go from doing nothing to suddenly going, let's go 7 days a week. Why don't you start 1 day a week? See how that goes. Then maybe 2 days. Then maybe 3 days. Build up, progressively overload your morning routine if you want to, until you find a point in which you're happy with how it is and it's serving its purpose by making you feel better, making you feel a bit more structured, and also maybe just starting your day off right. And once it's served that purpose, you've probably found your morning routine. But also, if you don't want a morning routine, you don't need one. Again, I'm a big believer in routine being very important. My routine might look different to your routine, and my idea of a routine might also look different to your idea of a routine. My idea of a routine might be making sure I eat and do X, Y, Z at certain times. Your idea of a routine might be just making sure that you get out of bed once the alarm goes off and you brush your teeth in plenty of time before you go to work. Routines look different between people. Throwing out there, if you happen to care, myself, Ryder and Beth all have slots available to work with us on a one-to-one basis where we can help coach you towards your goals. So if that is of interest to you, have a look at the description down below, have a gander at the application form, fill it in, and then we'll have a chat and see what we can do.
Now, reason number 2 is that it presents one unified image of healthy. The That Girl trend pushes a one-size-fits-all ideal of what living your best, healthiest life should look like.
And to be honest, I kind of actually back this as well. Of all the points I could have chosen, I figure this is probably quite a relevant one because it actually kind of goes on from an Instagram post I posted on Sunday, I believe, where I spoke about how there are different facets of health. These routines, fantastic, sure, if they get you moving, I respect it, but they do very much focus on health in like a very linear and one-directional manner, saying this is what health looks like. But is that what health looks like to you? Because if it doesn't enhance your life and maybe even hinders it because it leaves you feeling guilty, inadequate, or ashamed of your morning routine, is that healthy? Probably not. If it doesn't address any deficits that you personally may have in your life that constitute to health, is it healthy? Probably not. Again, it's great that it kind of highlights the importance of routine. I respect that. Does it enhance your social health? Does it get you seeing people and interacting with people that are important to you? Does it actually help your mental health? Maybe it will. Maybe this routine will help your mental health, but maybe it might also hinder your mental health. And how does it impact your physical health? Again, those are just like 3 facets of health that you can consider. Does a morning routine enhance all of those aspects of health? Or does a morning routine potentially even hinder some of those aspects of health? At the end of the day, health is a very multifaceted kind of concept. What does health look like for you? Is it about how you are physically within yourself internally, how you look, how you feel, how you socialize? What does it look like to you? And is an effective morning routine not something that you could implement or create for your goals to align with your idea of health, fulfilling, or maybe making up for any deficits that you may have? Again, just my thoughts and opinions. Regardless, I'd love to hear yours, even though you didn't even ask for mine in the first place. That is it. That is the video. Thank you for tolerating me. Thank you for tolerating the fact that I may actually well be that girl, or maybe not be that girl, who knows? And thank you for tolerating the video.